Hey, y'all. We shouldn't even have to do a show after a game like that. I'm still recovering emotionally.
There's a flag on the play. Unsportsmanlike conduct. Pittsburgh for defending.
Ryan Garzunas, 15 yards.
Good morning, everybody. What is the opposite of Victory Monday? Loser Monday? Is this Loser Monday, guys? I mean, do you call it
Disappointment Monday?
This is Playoff Clinching Monday, baby.
Loser Monday.
I thought maybe we could just use a little elevator music to calm our nerves here.
But as Mike said, the Steelers, just like my butt cheeks, during the course of this game, we clinched.
They also have streaks of brown? What?
But I do want to first off say this, guys. I want to apologize for everybody that tuned into the show on Friday. It was brutal. I think I got everything fixed. I think. So keep me posted during the show, guys. But I do believe things are fixed. You know.
Working on it.
Yeah. There were drones involved and, all this stuff. But you know what? I got in there, handled the business. Good morning, Field of Steel. Ratbirds Week. Yes, sir. Here we go. I do want to say good morning, everybody. This is episode 660 of the Two Dumb Yinzers. Welcome back. What do you say? What do you say? What do you say on a Monday like this, guys? A lot of stuff to go over today, guys. So do relax and just listen for a while. The Pittsburgh Steelers were back in action yesterday in Philadelphia. I think that the TV show is lying. It's never sunny in Philadelphia when we go there.
No.
Not for many, many years, at least.
No.
At least the last time it was sunny in Philadelphia for us, people were on acid, and maybe it wasn't even funny and sunny because in the 60s, nobody was of sober mind. But nonetheless, here we are, guys. Good morning. This is the Two Dumb Yinzers. We got a lot of things to talk about today. A short week for the Pittsburgh Steelers, a clinched playoff spot. How do you make the playoffs when you lose? All this kind of fun stuff we're going to talk about today, guys, including some other fun things on top of that was accomplished by our Pitt women's volleyball team. That's right, Pitt women's volleyball team. We'll get into that a little bit more later. Guys, we'll start off with this Pittsburgh Steelers game. Good morning, everybody. Yeah. Guys, we lose this football game 27-13. Pretty much the equivalent of beating the Browns the previous week, 27-14. So just in case you wondered where you stand with the Philadelphia Eagles, just think of how the Browns felt after taking the 27-14 loss to us last week. Yeah. Are we ready? Is this team even okay? Yes, we are a playoff team. Yes, we are better than half of the teams that are in the playoffs, maybe more. But does any of that matter, guys, if you can't beat? You can't even play on the same field as the teams that are considered the better teams in the playoffs. Let's look for an example. Let's not even talk about Philadelphia. Let's go to last year against Buffalo. We belong on the same field as that team in the playoffs? Do we belong on the same field as the team we played yesterday? No. A lot of people are awfully optimistic, thinking that the Kansas City Chiefs are beatable. However, they haven't lost a guy. They lost one game all season. Guys, does this take the sail out of the wind out of your sails moving forward, taking this L? Of course, we have the opportunity, guys. We could turn it around real quick, come out at Saturday and beat the Ravens and be back on the, and everybody's radar, talking about the playoffs, things like this. Nonetheless, we did make the playoffs yesterday with a loss, by a couple losses. The Colts and the Dolphins did take losses to the Texans and the Broncos, which helped us greatly. But again, at the end of the day, how much does it really matter if you play these top 4 teams, let's call them, and you just can't ever seem to be on the same field as these guys. Good morning, Jen on the board. We're going to be going over that today a little bit, trying to figure out what it is we're going to have to do. We're going to be looking at this short week, getting ready for the Ravens. And, of course, the big news, guys, we're going to be looking at what's going on with the injuries on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And are we even going to be able to compete with teams that are of this caliber moving forward? Again, guys, we have 3 games left. We play the Ravens on Saturday. And then a week from Wednesday, we play the Chiefs on Christmas Day. And then we finish up the season at the beginning of January against the Bengals. A lot of things to talk about today, guys. Let's start with the guys. How you doing this morning, Finch?
Doing great. 2 quick things. One, this was the only appropriate Steelers shirt I could find in the closet today because they played like poo.
I like it.
And 2, we talked about this in private, but I just want to bring it up on air real quick because I haven't been here for like a week. We got a new feature on the show, and it's the boom button. And I just want everybody to know that when this happens, boom, that happens. So just keep that in mind. And I think that might be the single greatest addition to this show for quite some time. So, yeah, other than that,
single greatest addition since Derpy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Since our boy
Derpy.
We
could have used Derpy out there last night.
He probably would have played better defense.
He probably would. He probably could have broken down and making a tackle.
At least one tackle.
At least one.
Oh, so much stuff. I do got some other stuff in works for Derpy. Maybe I'll send it over during the course of the game, and Mike can show it on his screen as we go. But guys, let's get into this. Guys, I think the big thing here is not even the loss; it's the injuries we took. Of course, 3 huge injuries during the course of this game. T.J. Watt with the ankle, Dante Jackson with the back, and you may not feel that this is as important, but Justin Fields, I mean, it is important. He goes down with the ab as well. And this is on top of the Pickens injury, the Deshaun Elliott injury, and the Larry Ogunjobi injury that we went into the game with to begin with. Guys, Mike, where do we stand? I mean, we are already 6.5-point underdogs to the Ravens. Of course, we're going over there to a place that we won 8-9, or was it 9-10, something like this.
Something like that.
Yet we are still after beating them time after time after time after time after time after time. Still go into this game as pretty big underdogs. Mike, what has to happen for this Pittsburgh Steelers to keep things even excitable? Again, if you watched the game yesterday, and depending on how these next 2 go, this could feel a lot like the last 7 years, the last numerous attempts at the playoffs. Is there any chance Steelers are a decent enough team or a good enough team to even run with those top 4 teams, I guess you could call them, the Eagles, the Lions, the Bills, and the Chiefs? And if we could even stay in that conversation, how much are these injuries? And we don't know the extent of them at the moment, but how much are these injuries going to play a part moving forward?
The injuries are a huge part, especially in offense. George Pickens, his agent is licking his chops now for George's new contract to come up, because you see what this offense went from when he was in there, him and Russ healthy, to now. He is the offense. He is he drives that offense. He is the conductor of that offense for the most part. It runs through him. So that Pickens loss is huge. Hopefully he can come back, because if he can come back, TJ Watt can play, Deshaun Elliott can play. I think we can definitely hang with Kansas City. I think if somehow if the stars align and it becomes a Pittsburgh Philly Baltimore or Pittsburgh Philly Super Bowl, I think we have a much better chance in a rematch game. You add George Pickens back to this offense, add Deshaun Elliott back to that defense, add Ogunjobi back to that D-line. I think we can hang with them. Now, Buffalo, on the other hand, I think Buffalo might be the cream of the crop of the NFL. They've had our number for the past couple of years. I know we had that one win. Was it Ben's last year in the first game of the season? I think that's the last time we beat them. Every other time we beat them, it's been terrible. It's been god awful. I do not want to play them, and maybe Detroit would give us a run for our money. But you get George Pickens back, you get those guys back on defense. I like our chances, because Baltimore was the talk of the town. They were the cream of the crop. They were supposed to be the best team and one of the best teams in the NFL, and look what happened. We beat them, and they haven't been the same since. Ever since Baltimore lost to Pittsburgh, they have not been the same team. People haven't been talking about them the same. So this right here, like Coach Tallman said, let's not be over dramatic. But if these injuries keep mounting, it's time to be dramatic because these are key injuries that you cannot replace. These are star guys that are hard to replace.
I believe this. I'll pass to you real quick in a second, Jeff. My belief is this. I think we were playing on thin ice with just only having Pickens to begin with. Don't get me wrong. I really feel that we should have went out and did some and made a move to get somebody else to have opposite side of Pickens. We obviously see one pass was thrown to Mike Williams yesterday during the game where Pickens did not play entirely. That tells me that don't get excited about Mike Williams. Just don't. It's not going to happen. I think we were already playing on thin ice with the system that this team was running with one wide receiver. Guys, I tend to lean a little different than Mike in this area right now because, again, we haven't proved to being able to stay with any of these teams that are the top teams, the cream of the crop, if you will. And I think that these injuries can be very damning. Finch, go ahead, man.
Yeah. So if you ask me about last night's game, first off, with George Pickens, I mean, you're absolutely right. You always want your best guys on the field, right? But I also noticed a lot of the times Russ missed. He just didn't see receivers down the field. And that's kind of been a thing with him his whole career, right? They always talk about him. He's short. He has trouble seeing, yada, yada. And there were plenty of plays last night, and Tom Brady and them broke it down during the game. There were times when we did have a guy open and Russ elected to dump it down or whatever and make a 3-yard pass on 2nd and 18. So, yeah, you do miss George because he does get open and he is great a player and he can catch just about anything in his way. But at the same time, if Russ doesn't see him and doesn't throw the ball to the guy who is open, that's also an issue. Now, a lot of that also comes down to just absolutely fantastic play by the Eagles defense. They were lights out. They were great. They
are number one for a reason.
Yeah, they really are. And the front seven was superlative last night. Russ was, he took a couple sacks. Russ was all over the place, getting chased around, trying to make plays. And it's just one of those things, man. Our offense was outplayed. Our defense was outcoached. And it's just not a great game overall. So it is what it is. But you want George back as soon as possible. And injuries in general, obviously, can make or break a playoff run for any team. But at this point right now, it's like I don't think the injuries were the reason we lost last night. Might be the reason why we don't continue further in the future, and that's what sucks.
Yeah, the guys, listen. If we, let me give it to you like this: the two starting receivers for the Eagles, AJ Brown and Smith. Brown was 8 for 110 yards and a touchdown, 8 catches, 110 yards for a touchdown, and Smith was 11 catches for 109 yards and a touchdown. Guys, this has very little to do with injuries. We couldn't run with the team that we played yesterday, whether it was being prepared, whether it's just not us being in the caliber of those top 4 teams. I don't know, but if you guys watched the same game that I did, it was very demoralizing because there was a lot of things that we just couldn't stop. Listen, again, those two receivers on those two alone. The quarterback, Jalen Hurts, this has been a primary running team. Jalen Hurts ended up going 25 for 32, 290 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's alarming for a team that doesn't throw the ball a lot now that they have a new running back over there. I just think that there wasn't much that we – matter of fact, the only thing we was able to do was stop their running back. Everything else in this game, we just weren't able to do. We couldn't stop their passing game. We got to the quarterback a couple times. We sacked him 3 times through the course of the game, which wasn't nearly enough. But at the end of the day, and again, Mark Maloney's pointing to the turnovers. We got outplayed by this football team. There was no point during this game when you really felt like, you know what, okay, we could turn it around right here if we would drive down the field because it just didn't happen.
Can I give you a stat real quick here?
Yes, please.
So I'm looking at the team stats, and I mentioned this to Mike before we started here in our little pregame session. There were 9 total drives by the Steelers yesterday.
Yes.
Do you want to take a guess at how many total drives the Eagles had?
Same amount.
Same amount. It was 9.
Yeah.
Here's the telling stat, though. Steelers' time of possession was 20 minutes, 8 seconds, and the Eagles was 39:52.
1/3
that is
exactly.
a 2-1.
Yeah.
That was the killer. Our defense could not get off the field. That's normally the kind of thing you would see when the running back is doing great, right? If Saquon's out there pounding the ball, you expect our time of possession to go down because it takes time to run the ball.
And that
Somehow
wasn't even the
they
case.
managed. No, it
Because they
wasn't.
passed all the
It's
time.
unbelievable. And once again, I think that was, the Steelers defense obviously didn't play well, but I truly think that we were just totally out-coached and outmatched. The Eagles offense, they were humming like yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
They were great. And you got to give all the credit in the world to those wide receivers. All season they talked about Saquon and how great he is, and he truly is. But Keyshawn Johnson actually said live on the air the other day something that I hadn't thought about, and he was proven right last night. Why throw the ball all over the place when you have that big old bruiser behind you who is just doing magical things? It doesn't mean their passing game isn't any good. It doesn't mean Jalen can't throw the ball. It doesn't mean AJ isn't great. It means that they take option A more often than option B. And for the Eagles, they're good enough and stacked enough to where option B can win the game when it needs to. And last night, they did.
And leading into the game, that's what I preached all week last week was AJ Brown. AJ Brown, I said the guy had 5 catches for 161 yards,
He's
3
fantastic.
touchdowns against us last time, and I said this is going to be, this is their strength right here, guys. Let me give you another number that goes along with what you're saying, Finch. Of the 9 and 9, the 2 possessions, they had 77 plays. We had 41 plays. 9 and 9, 77 plays, 41 plays, guys. It was you know what? It was the game that I think most people expected but didn't want to accept.
Yeah.
As I went on and on and on and on all week about, I feel confident, I feel optimistic. This was the game that was in the back of my brain the whole time. The same game that happened the last time we played Philadelphia, the same game that happened the last time we played Buffalo, the same game that happened anytime that we play anybody that's of this caliber. I mean, guys, we're just not there. We're just not there. We're not that team. Can we win a Super Bowl? Yeah, I guess, right?
If the cards fall right,
the cards would have to fall right.
Extremely well. Yeah, for it to happen. Like there's 3-4 weeks ago, the elite teams were Baltimore, the Lions, Buffalo, Eagles.
Well, the Baltimore Ravens had 5 losses for quite some time. I took them out of the elite for when we beat them. When I took them out of the elite team.
Yeah, I'm saying, before we beat them, they were people were still saying they were one of the elites. Lamar and that, that offense is running with King Henry. Now, the narrative has changed. The Eagles really weren't considered an elite team because, what can Jalen Hurts do? It's all Saquon. You stop him, they're not going to be able to do anything. There's discontent. There's turmoil in there. How far can that defense take them? Then after tonight, now they're back up into that elite status. And I think Pittsburgh, we're on that second tier down. We're a very good team, not an elite team, but
we're mid top tier because there's teams that we're better than that's top tier. The Chargers, the Broncos. I mean, these teams are sitting in the playoffs, but we're not as it's hard to believe that we could go into the playoffs and not only hang with but win against any of these teams that we're talking about. Kansas City, Buffalo. Maybe we'll get lucky enough here. I just don't know. We'll play Baltimore. We'll talk a lot more about that. If we get this win, we win the division. Then we're going to get a team of a lower seed in the first round of the playoffs. That's best case scenario for the Steelers. You want to get that win. You want to try to get a little bit of momentum going for you. Getting that Chargers, that Broncos, that team of that caliber, that could be beneficial for the Steelers, guys. But I got to tell you, you get into the second round, and where we're sitting right now, and if we would get to the second round, we would get probably Buffalo or whoever will be Buffalo or Kansas City. It doesn't matter, guys. Do you really, Finch, Mike? A few weeks from now, second round on the road, going to Arrowhead or going to Buffalo. What's the chances? I mean, realistically, are you going to get excited? Yeah, you get excited. It's the playoffs. But guys, do you realistically see us getting over a second round hump, which would be either Buffalo or Kansas City?
Realistically, I still think we can. It is a realistic possibility. I mean, we'll have a better idea here in 2 weeks once we see Kansas City. But I'm not as nervous about playing the Bills or the Chiefs as I would be playing the Lions. I think the Lions and the Eagles really are the cream of the NFL right now. The Bills are great. Don't get me wrong. They're wonderful, and they played a great game. But they don't scare me the way that those other teams do. And I know the Steelers, we've not been too good against Buffalo in recent years, but they just don't they don't scare me the way that the Lions do. And after seeing the Eagles last night, it's hard to argue, how are they not undefeated? Like, they were so good last night, and they did not have a very tough schedule this year. The NFC East is pure trash. Washington is not as great as everybody says they were. So, like, good for the Eagles for just playing some good ball, and it's hard to argue that they should be the Super Bowl contender from the NFC now with Detroit. But yeah, it's Kansas City doesn't scare me the way that those teams do.
Yeah, the only thing that scares me about Kansas City is the fact that we got to play them on next Wednesday, and everybody keeps saying that they don't scare them. That's what scares me. The fact that this team only lost one game throughout the season, the fact that this team finds a way to win 4 Super Bowls in the last 5 years, that's what scares me. It isn't the product on the
KC
field, it's
has
the
sauce.
results.
That's what it is. They have the sauce.
The sauce is what scares me. The sauce is what makes them better than all these other teams that we're mentioning. Philadelphia hasn't won a Super Bowl in that period of time. The Detroit Lions hasn't won a Super Bowl, nor has the Buffalo Bills, but yet KC is the team that we are least as scared of. That's kind of baffling to me, guys. But going to the Buffalo Bills, as you mentioned, their defense is awfully susceptible. Last week they gave up 44 to the Rams. Last night they gave up 40. But you know what? Being able to keep up with this team that can score 40 points at will against the Detroit Lions defense like it's nothing, that's what scares me. What does the Pittsburgh Steelers do to combat what it is that the Bills bring on offense? Guys, again, this Detroit Lions team, you guys are, Fincher mentioning, is probably the cream of the crop. They get 40 points ran up on them like it's nothing. How do we, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who has a tough time stopping the pass, and, let's look at yesterday's game, for example, how do we match up against that kind of offense, which could very well be the matchup?
Ooh, it's going to be a tough one because if you lose Dante Jackson, you're already having trouble in coverage in the secondary. That's just going to compound factors right there. And then you have Minkah Fitzpatrick, who's still not doing anything in this league after 4 good years here. He's been a non-factor. I don't know, because what they were doing last night against those two receivers, I don't know what they were trying to do. I thought they were just going to copy the game plan that they used against Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. They had a blueprint there. Yeah, Jamar Chase had a touchdown, but they more or less kept him under control, and you couldn't more or less copy the same thing that we were doing against Cincinnati to Philadelphia. It made no sense. I don't know what we're going to do going forward, but they could do it, but I don't know what it's just AJ Brown. Every time we play AJ Brown, he goes off. It happens. Some guys have your number. It is what it is.
He seems to have a lot of people's numbers. AJ Brown.
Yeah,
I don't think it's just us.
When you're a top flight receiver, you can have a lot of teams' numbers.
So, a lot of people are going to come back today and they're going to say, where was the penalty called for the Steelers during the fight? Najee Harris needs to be gone. The injuries really killed us. But at the end of the day, guys, none of those, they all played a part. But we just got outplayed. We got outcoached. We got beat up.
Yeah.
Listen, we got our lunch handed to us. Bottom line, no two ways about it. You can make up as many excuses during the course of a game. That injury, the fumble did not lose the game. We were already getting dominated. And the fact, if we would have been able to, if we wouldn't have fumbled on that play and came back and won, come on, I don't even think that's realistic. If you watched again the same game that I'm watching, the penalties, they get more, they're penalized more than we were. We had 5 penalties for 60 yards. They had 7 penalties, 54 yards. So, I mean, that's not the case. We were getting dominated before our guys got injured. TJ Watt was late in the game. Fields really didn't matter. He's he's not a starter. And Deontay, as Mike mentioned, Dante Jackson was getting exposed all day. Mm-hmm. We just got our lunches handed to us. We got to go back and figure out what the hell we got to do, because these next 2 games aren't going to be any easier. We're going to go into a hostile Baltimore where they haven't beat us in years. Who do you think is more motivated to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers right now than the Baltimore Ravens, and then this lowly 1-loss Chiefs team that everybody kind of keeps saying they're not scared of? Guys, it's kind of worrisome, but I am still optimistic because we lose and make the playoffs. Bittersweet. It's a bittersweet Monday. Mm-hmm. Let me go over some numbers here, guys, and then we will get to the board in just 1 second. The total yards for the game was Philadelphia had 401 yards. The Steelers had 163. The passing game was 270 to 107. I don't need to tell you which direction that favored. The running game 131 to 56. First downs 26 to 10. Plays 77-41. Sacks. We did sack their quarterback more than they sacked ours, 3 times to 2. We punted the ball 5 times. They punted the ball just once on those 9 drives that Finch was telling us about. Also, the penalties I did mention, they fumbled twice. We fumbled once. So again, you could take away the fumble that we had that cost us the game, apparently. And again, 1/3 of the game time of possession was what we had, guys. 20 minutes and 8 seconds, as Finch indicated, to 39-52 for the Philadelphia Eagles. There's no rhyme, reason, excuse. We got our asses handed to us. It was a good old-fashioned ass kicking. Again, you could attribute to all these things and say that all these things played a part, which they did. But if you take one of these things away or add another thing to where one of those was taken away, do you really see this game resulting much differently? It really felt like we got our asses kicked. There was no point during this game that you really felt like the Steelers were in control. Some more numbers here, guys. Russell Wilson, goes 14 for 22, 128 yards. So I think that's two games in a row he's thrown in the once his big 400-yard game. Najee Harris, guys, 6 carries, 14 yards. Calvin Austin, the third, was our leading receiver with 5 catches, 65 yards. Pat Freiermuth had 3 catches, 22 yards, and the only touchdown of the game. On defense, Patrick Queen led the way with 11 total tackles. Highsmith had 8 total tackles and a sack, and TJ Watt had 7 total tackles, 2 sacks, and his 33rd forced fumble of his career, which is the most by the Steelers in team history. And then
overrated.
He's way overrated.
Overrated.
And then the Philadelphia Eagles guys, Hurts went 25 for 32, 290 and 2 touchdowns. Barkley went 19 carries, 65 yards. And again, A.J. Brown, 8 carries, 110 and 1 touchdown. And Smith went 11 catches, 109 and a touchdown. Guys, is it safe to say we just put this game behind us? Forget about it. Say, hey, you know what? We're in the playoffs. It's Monday morning. Let's get ready for Baltimore and do what we got to do, because there's nothing we could do at this point to ever change what happened yesterday in Philadelphia. It is what it is. And guys, at the end of the day, we are 10-4. At the end of the day, we are at first place in our division. At the end of the day, we are in the playoffs. So we're doing better than most teams, except those 4 guys. In order for the Pittsburgh Steelers to even be in the conversation for the Super Bowl, we have to figure out those 4.
In the last 9 games, the Steelers have lost 2 games. The sky is falling.
And only one of them to a really great team. We lost one of those to a great team, and we lost the other to the Browns.
That was the only ass kicking we took. The other 3 losses this season.
Only one. Yep.
Yeah.
All 3 of our other losses were winnable games that we could have won, or that we actually lost in the last drive or 2. This is the first time the Steelers got an ass whooping. And guess what? Every great boxer needs his ass whooped once in a while.
Yeah,
they come back stronger than ever. So, that's the way I'm looking at this. We got outplayed. We got outcoached. It was a bad day. It was a bad game. It didn't go well for us. That doesn't mean that we're incapable. It doesn't mean we're a bad team. We're 10-4. We've played and beat some of the creams of the crop. We keep bringing up that phrase today. We've beat some really great teams this year, and there's no reason to believe that we still have the talent. We still have the coaching. The injuries will be the X factor. The Steelers are going to be all right, man. I don't know if we're going to make it all the way to the Super Bowl, but these next few weeks in the first round of the playoffs, the Steelers are going to be okay.
Yeah, they're going to be fine. And once again, this franchise has not won in Philadelphia since 1965. Chuck Noll didn't win there.
How do you even explain that? Something that goes
Howard there. Tomlin,
because it's not a coach. It's not a player. It's not a particular team. It is since 1965. We just can't. How do you even explain that? It's unexplainable.
Yeah, it's weird. It's same thing happened in hockey for the longest time. The Penguins could not win at the Spectrum.
Right
now, the Steelers can't win at Lincoln. They can't win at the shithole that it was before. It is what it is. It's frustrating. It's annoying because looking at the schedule, okay, that's a loss. You just know that one right there is a guaranteed loss because we just can't win there. And like Ryan said, it's not a coaching thing. It's not a player thing because it's been 50 some odd years. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but this game sucked. This is the Eagles did to us what we typically do to other teams. And sometimes you got to get a taste of your own medicine, and nothing resets the focus like the Ravens week.
Yeah, guys, it is the halfway point. Guys, do get on and vote for your favorite Pittsburgh Steelers to go to the Pro Bowl. Don't let yesterday discourage you. The guys, a lot of them are just about there. Some guys are at the very tippy top of the list, but there are other guys that are they just need a little bit more help. Do get on and make sure you vote for your favorite Steelers for the Pro Bowl. Guys, we can get a lot on this team. And you know what? Again, we're 10-4. We're in first place, and we're in the playoffs. They deserve to be there. Just a couple other issues that we have to work out down the way.
Yeah.
Also, guys, let's get to the board. There's a lot going on, and I want to hang with these guys today, Mike. I really do. We get all excitable when we win, so let's not be so excitable about the game today. Let's calm down.
Let's be fatalistic.
And let's talk to some folks here and figure out what's going on in the public's eye. I'm going to start with. Let's see. I'm going to start right here. Right here. No, right there. Okay, right here. Right here. All right.
Can you pick one? Can you pick one?
No.
You can't pick
one. Here we go. I'm going to start with Jen. She says our defense was out there way too long in the second half. Jen also says we hurt ourselves. Yinzer Joe. Yeah. And I do want to say good morning to everybody as well. Yinzer Joe says Steelers defense was wore out chasing the quarterback, running back, and receivers. If Harris didn't fumble, maybe they would have had a chance, but Philly went into time management and put it away.
Yep.
Field of Steel said ready to hunt the Ratbirds. Mark Malone, he says we had 2 big turnovers. And that's what I'm saying. We couldn't take advantage of the 2 turnovers early, so you can't count that. You can't say that fumble late in the game when we were already getting our asses kicked. All right, I'm sorry. Let me get back on that. We had 2 big turnovers early and 3 points to show for it. The offense suckles from one of Derpy's actors. Jen says, yes, Steel, bring them on. John says, coaching, why continue in zone when it doesn't work? You know what? That Mike, who is it that always goes on about the middle of the field? Is it Ron Navy?
Me and Ron, that middle of the field.
Boy, every time they caught a ball in the middle of the field, I thought of Ron Navy yesterday. John also says the Super Bowl is not a realistic idea. It's not realistic. Also, Mark Malone says Tallman is the great secondary master. He's so well at compensating because he can do things that most people can't understand. That was to John from Mark. Phil still says Saturday, baby, AFC North. Ratbird's Nest, all right. John also says Tallman's game decisions are ass. He wasted 17 seconds and took a timeout in the second half. He continues to make rookie mistakes after 17 years of coaching. Mark Malone said he also once wasted a vast majority of Hall of Fame quarterbacks' careers. Ooh.
Just real quick to point out, now, if you think time management is what lost the game yesterday, then I don't think you understand football, dude. I mean, he does make mistakes, but that didn't lose the game.
Everybody's allowed to have a different opinion. You know what? That's one thing people keep saying on this show. You don't understand football. I think we all understand football. You should have different opinions. Guys, I mean, there was just something that went on in the inner works of the show the other day, and that's what this comment was made about, and the people that were involved know what I'm talking about. But I think it's unfair to say they don't know what they're talking about when it comes to football. Maybe it's just a different opinion. Let me get back to the question, or the comments here. Boom. Mark Malone said he also Jen says, do you think Kenny Pickett got a petty game ball? I think Kenny Pickett does get the petty game ball. Oh, Mark Malone, nobody has done less with more than Tomlin. Interesting.
Harbaugh, Shanahan, just to name a few.
Yinzer Joe says, realistically, if the Steelers have a second-round playoff game, I feel like they could beat KC. There's another one, so maybe these are all right. Maybe I'm the only one that doesn't see this. KC, maybe not Buffalo. Allen is just on fire right now. Mark Malone says, with Tomlin very poorly, with any other head coach pretty well. Interesting. Field of Steel says, yeah, it happens. Move on. Ratbirds are next. That's kind of where I'm at, guys. What else are you going to do, right? John says folks need excuses to cope. Jen says the Eagles had a rushing average of 178 yards, and we held them under to 65. That was Tomlin's focus on not stopping AJ. John says Steelers are spotted 6 points against the Ravens. Phil still says I put it on the board on Monday. Don't care about Philadelphia Ratbirds game. That's the one. Barkley had 3.4 yards a carry. That's nearly half of the 6.1 he usually gets. So obviously they focused on the run. Yeah, here's the thing: we stop the run no matter what, no matter who we play. That's the Steelers. It's always been number one. Try to find a year where the Steelers didn't focus on the run first. Also, Brian over at One Man's Opinion says, I don't care if the Steelers lost as long as TJ Watt got his meaningless stats. Interesting.
Real quick for Brian, I just want to, we found him some villain music here. And now when I think of Brian, this is what I think of. Dun dun.
Every time Brian comments.
Yeah, TJ Watt being a game wrecker the first half, so meaningless.
Well, TJ Watt is the single reason we lost that game.
He is.
Absolutely.
If he has 19 sacks, 17 forced fumbles, and 3 returns for touchdowns,
like anybody else in the world,
so,
nobody does the things that people expect TJ Watt to do, but he still manages to go out and do amazing things and change the course of the game. For the most part, that had very little to do with TJ Watt, what happened yesterday. John says, Boz
it's a shame. It is what it is. It
is
what it is.
Breaking the team record for field goals isn't a good thing. Of course, Boswell got his 37th field goal of the season, which is a team record. Kind of unbelievable thinking of Gary Anderson as the all-time scoring leader in the NFL. But it is what it is.
Longevity played a lot of – I mean, he played 20 seasons, so that's –
Yeah. He was only for the Steelers for, So, anyway, guys, let's go to the next one. What a nice grab by Muth. Mark Malone says, I ain't talking time management. That's the least of Tomlin's shortcomings. John Finch, watch what you say. I pointed out a Tomlin mistake. I know your comment is passive. Interesting. Also, Mark Malone, Hall of Fame quarterback, the Killer Bees.
Having fun, John.
I don't think anyone has ever done less with more. And then let me get Phil Steele. He says the offensive play. Listen, guys. All right, let's just collectively let's talk about some of these comments. Nothing in particular, but Finch, you and Mike, you guys are both adding comments throughout. Just kind of sum up your feelings on some of these comments, guys. This is the way that the people who are very similar to us, they're Steeler fans. We look for this team to win. We get upset when they lose. How do you guys address the board today? Mike?
No, go ahead, Finch.
I was just saying nobody's wrong. Nobody said anything wrong here. John just gave me a hard time for what I said earlier. And I stick by my statement that the time management is not what lost the game yesterday. He has lost games for us because of that. But I was talking specifically about yesterday. But yeah, I mean, nobody's wrong. Everything that's being said is spot on. We were out-coached. We were outplayed. TJ was pretty good in the first half. He didn't show up hardly in the second half. He got hurt. It sucks. But he also isn't the reason we lost. It's just one of those things. Once again, we got our asses handed to us by a really great team. It happens once a season. Just happened to be our turn, and I'm glad it happened against an NFC team as opposed to something that could actually affect us in the standings. And after all of that, we still made the playoffs. So it sucks. It is what it is. It's a learning experience for our team going forward. And as long as we can heal from the injuries, that's the biggest concern right now.
I was told this was an alcohol-free zone, or is that just a rule for me from now on?
Well, I mean, you drank on 90% of the show so
far.
Well,
Mark Malone said
information.
He got a beer in hand, and I feel left out.
Well, John got Terry Bong show. Mark Malone got a beer in hand. I don't know what show you've been on for the last 700 shows.
So I get nothing today, because if I knew we were going to come in here and get all liquored up and bitch and moan about the team, I would have joined in. I was trying to be a positive.
Maybe if you would join in, you could get up to the level that you were at on Friday's show, and we could all just watch you laugh for 45 minutes. That was wonderful.
Maybe that would be maybe that's what everyone needed, was me to come in and just be a complete total train wreck and just have the
Steelers lose.
You know what? Hey,
thanks, Mike.
I tried to bring a little positivity to the downfall here. Trust me, it's a struggle for me to.
There's no downfall. Listen, there's no difference from 2 days ago than there is today with this Pittsburgh Steelers team. It's still the same team. If you let me give you this, Mike, Finch, 3 people on the board, and Coach Tomlin, go put together a game plan. Play the Philadelphia Eagles 2 days from now and see if the results are any different. Guys, this team just beat our ass. They're just a better football team than we are right now. There's not much of an excuse. There's nothing changes between now and 2 days ago. It's the same team. You're going to get the same. So there are
everybody wants a scapegoat.
Everybody wants a scapegoat. And again, 10-4 first place in the playoffs. Maybe these aren't the worst problems in the world. There's teams that have a lot bigger problems than we have. Guys, let me just go over a couple more things here about this football game. This was Russell Wilson, of course. Yes, Russell Wilson was 6-0 with 9 touchdowns and 1 interception versus the Eagles in his career. He takes the first L. Maybe it was Russell. No, it wasn't Russell Wilson's fault. But again, guys, what a time for him to pick to lose to the Eagles for the first time in his career. Also, what else? It's the first loss to a winning team that the Steelers had all season. Every winning team we played and we beat, we were 5-0 to this point. Every team that was in a playoff spot, it was just the fashion, the way we lost this game, guys. The fact that we got punched in the mouth and then
we got
jumped on us, and then they beat the shit out of us. And then when they got done beating the shit out of us, they stood up and kicked us in the ribs 9 times. And then they spit on us as they walked away. That's why this feels the way that it does. The Steelers are no different than they ever were. This is again, we're 10-4. We're in first place. We're in the playoffs. We just have to right now, again, put this behind us, figure out how we can beat the Ravens and win this division this week. As Finch hit it right on the head, this is an NFC team. If you're going to lose anybody, it's good to lose to an NFC team. Yep. Best, it's the best case scenario of a bad scenario. What else do we got here, guys? Does anybody want to talk about the? I got on my notes here the fight and all that, and the penalty. Do you want to address? I wasn't even going to because I thought it was such a non-factor. But go ahead.
But the funny thing is, they were saying that the video assist showed 0 punches thrown by the Philadelphia Eagles. The literal first punch thrown was by the guy that Darnell Washington blocked out of the end zone. That guy,
which there was nothing wrong with that play. From the time you're a little kid,
you play till
the whistle.
You push that guy. You block that guy until the whistle. He did everything that he was supposed to do as a player.
He gets punched in the mouth. Nothing called. One of their Darius Slay comes in, pushes a guy. So then little Calvin Austin pushes someone. Calvin Austin gets punched in the face. Yeah, Calvin Austin got punched in the face, then pushes back. He gets a foul. There were multiple punches thrown by the Eagles that were not called. It was a farce. It was a joke. But if they wouldn't have said, "Oh, there was no video evidence of punches thrown," I wouldn't be upset about it.
Exactly. Fan video. There were fan videos of that scrum that I watched last night in the end zone, and fans that were in the end zone. I mean, it was so clear. And a referee missed the call. Okay, maybe he didn't see it. It is what it is. But it was kind of egregious, and it happened a couple of times through the game where Steelers got pushed around, and there should have been something called for it. I've never been a conspiracy theory guy when it comes to the NFL, but the way the refereeing has been the last couple of seasons and really bad this season, it does kind of give you that thought, like, who's paying these guys? Or probably the more likely scenario, where are they gambling? Where are they got their FanDuel app going during the game?
Ever since Vegas jumped into bed with the NFL, I've noticed a change in that league. And I didn't want to. 100% I said to myself, they're going to keep it separated. They're not keeping it separated. No. Every game comes down to the wire.
And now,
with the exception of our game.
Watch now that in Major League Baseball, now that Oakland Athletics are going to be moving to Vegas, you're going to see some shit with these umpires. And I truly do think, like I said, I've never been a conspiracy guy, but dude, when there's money involved, people will do some wild shit. Remember a bunch of NBA referees got in a lot of trouble 15, 20 years ago? There is no reason to believe that it can't happen to the NFL or Major League Baseball or even hockey. It could happen. It could be happening right now. Now, is that the reason that those calls got blown during the game last night? Probably not. They got missed, but it's hard to say, hey, these calls were missed, and they could have benefited the Steelers at the time of the calls, especially the scrum in the end zone.
Yeah, that scrum in the end zone, we were starting to move. And then TJ Watt.
It was a momentum shift.
Yeah, I'm going to say, and then TJ Watt, the play he got hurt on was another play where he got held by Lane Johnson.
That's another thing. He gets held constantly, but that's nothing new in the NFL. We talked about this 15 years ago with James Harrison. I remember Joey Porter got held all the time. Yeah. And those are just Steelers. It happens to a lot of great players. The referees sometimes are blind to great players in those situations or blind to favor great players in those situations. Tom Brady.
Yeah, and Lane Johnson, he's gonna once he's done, he's going right into the Hall of Fame. So you got 2 Hall of Famers going at it, and of course they're gonna let the offensive lineman, who's probably held his entire career, go.
Now I am a conspiracy theorist.
Connor Hayward getting punched in the face.
My friend,
theorist, and I feel like this. As far as the umpires and the referees in Las Vegas, I don't know if the Oakland A's is going to make much of a difference because, of course, you see how that's working out for the Las Vegas Raiders. They're probably the worst team in the league. But I get what you're saying, though. I'm totally on board. Guys, let me catch up with some of the comments. Finch, I see that I recognize this name from a project that you've done previously. Tim Harris is on here.
Yeah, my good friend Timmy.
your buddy Tim here. So let's get into a couple of his comments. He had said, I'm a Bears fan. I don't feel bad for Jens losing and still clinching a playoff spot, although I am a huge Russ fan. He also did comment. He had said, it's fixed. The Eagles, the Chiefs, the Packers all get sucked off by the refs. I couldn't agree more. We
all have a conspiracy guy on our timeline, right? Tim's the conspiracy guy on my timeline. And guess what, Timmy? You're starting to get at me on this one. I think you might be right.
And then he makes a couple more comments about the Astros and things like this. But I do like Tim. Guys, also on the board, John says I can't put a 1990 VHS Steelers tape in. Listen to folks complaining about the refs. It has always been bad. Electronics brings it to light each game. Yeah.
When you have super slow-mo high def, it's real easy to point things out that you couldn't point out 30 years ago. You're 100% right on that. But my counter argument is, how come we aren't using this technology to get this right more often? That's been the argument in baseball, right? Why not have a camera for the strike zone? Why not allow more? Now, there was that they made that rule a couple years ago where you could challenge PIs. You remember that? And it was an absolute flop. God. I think they had the right idea. They need to figure out the right way to implement it. And you're 100% right, John. People have been complaining about referees and umpires for
beginning of time.
100 years in all of these sports. I mean, that's true. Calls get
and missed. Their team is always the team that gets penalized the most and treated unfairly. Let me grab a couple more of these comments, guys, because we do have to get into grades. We got to get into game ball. If you could even pull one out. Let me start here with Yenzer Joe. He says, look at the time management in the fourth quarter. Eagles got the ball, moved it systematically down the field, and got the goal line tush push. Again, that was another thing that the Eagles were able to do, guys, was move it at their own will. That was another thing the Steelers were not able to do. Guys, we got our asses kicked. Let me pull up a couple more of these, and then we will move on. John says that's the difference between winning and winning against teams and winning against a Super Bowl team. Absolutely. Somebody mentions in the comments about the big game that Russ had against the Bengals. The Bengals have one of the worst defenses I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Where he did put up the 400 yards. So that is the difference. And I believe there was somebody in here also. I don't know where it went, but John said, time for a change. No need for sticks to measure. So much can change. All right, guys, we do got to get into the grades. We got to get into the game ball. Unfortunately, I don't like doing this when we lose. I'm going to start with Mike. We're going to go from Mike to Derpy, Mike to Derpy, Mike to Derpy. We're going to keep it short and sweet.
Who's Derpy? Where's Derpy? Derpy?
I'm sorry, but Finch.
Derpy's here in spirit.
And we're going to go through each position, give a quick grade, quick explanation. But again, we can't give long, drawn-out explanations, Mike. We only
I'm sorry.
So many hours in a day. Here we go. Mike, I'm going to start with you. Quarterback play, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. Mike, what do you give these quarterbacks for their grade against the Eagles yesterday?
D minus. D minus.
Yeah.
All right, Finch, quarterback play. What do you grade these guys?
I agree. There was nothing positive. There was two good plays the whole game by the quarterbacks. There's nothing positive to say. It's a D minus.
Okay. Let's move to the running back position, guys. Najee Harris, Jaylen Warren, Patterson. You've seen the crew. What do you give these guys, Mike?
D minus.
Same.
Terrible. God awful.
Bad.
I can't wait till Najee
behind a makeshift line. Compared to what Saquon was able to do behind a Super Bowl line. But anyway, that's beside the point. So you guys give them both give them a D minus. Let's move to the tight end position, Mike. Touchdown. We got a touchdown by Pat Freiermuth, and we also got a I guess Darnell Washington pushing the guy into the 13th row was kind of a positive play. What do you give the tight ends, Mike?
B, just because of that touchdown in the tone setter.
Okay.
I go with a C for the same reason. C.
Okay.
They could have been a little bit better, but also Russ wasn't getting the ball to him as much, so that's a big part of it.
All right. To the wide receivers, if you could find any on his team, wide receivers, Mike, what do you grade Calvin Austin III? What do you grade Van Jefferson, Scotty Miller, Skoranek, and even Mike Williams for one catch?
They are also going to get a D minus, but for me, Calvin Austin's getting an A because my man went in there, the smallest guy on the field. When shit went down, he stood 10 toes down and was throwing haymakers. Calvin Austin, you get an A. Everyone else a D minus.
Calvin Austin has the Steeler mentality, and I love that about him. But the wide receivers in general, they did get open from time to time down the field. Russ just couldn't find them. And when the balls did get thrown their way, they made the catches. So, I give them like a C- overall.
Yeah, guys. And another thing we got to
I
remember,
want Finchie to be my teacher.
This was the number 1 defense in the league.
Yeah.
No defense is better than this. No matter what we did, we couldn't get anything. Running game, passing game.
Yeah.
Guys, offensive line, I don't think they did terrible, but Mike, what do you give the offensive line?
D-. This is going to be a common grade. It was just bad. Yeah. They
gave up 2 sacks.
They showed flashes. Yeah, they showed flashes, but they also showed times like, they just couldn't handle that front three.
Yeah,
Finch,
our pass
line.
Yeah, the obviously the running game was non-existent. You can't give him any credit for that. But at least Russ Wilson stayed off the ground for the most part. He was sacked twice, but he's been hit a lot more this season in the Steelers uniform. So I guess a D average is probably about as good as I can get. I'll give him that little bit of keeping Russ off the ground for the most part.
All right, I could respect that, guys. Let's move over to the defensive side of the ball. The Hogs up front, we got Montravius Adams back. We didn't have Ogunjobi. So, I mean, there's some things going on here on this defensive line. Cam Hayward. Guys, Mike, what do you give the defensive line for this game?
I'm going to give them a C-. I'm just going to go C-. They weren't terrible. They weren't great. They did hold Saquon to 65 yards.
That's the big one right there.
Yeah. But Jalen Hurts still had, and then Jalen Hurts had, 45, but that's scrambles and stuff. Yeah, I'm going to give them a C-.
I would have thought
Jalen was running all over the place. Yeah,
he was. I would have given that passing game. I would have thought that would have been the reason, guys, that they would have had a better running day. They just didn't have a good running day. And again, neither do we, but we were against the number 1 defense. Guys, let's move on to the linebackers. Let's look at this linebacker core. Landon Roberts, Patrick Queen, TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Wilson, Herbig, the whole crew. Mike, what do you give these linebackers?
I'm going to go C-. That to me, grade is elevated by TJ Watt's first half performance. I know Patrick Queen had a lot of tackles, but were any of them noteworthy? These guys were getting juked out of their jockstrap by Gainwell and Saquon and Jalen Hurts. They're having trouble with that read
Who was
option.
this Gainwell guy? He seemed to be the most effective player.
Yeah, I know Kenneth Gainwell, and I did not recognize he had that kind of game in him. I was impressed. He's been in the league for a couple of years now, but I did not see that type of explosion coming out of him.
Finch, the linebackers.
Same. Just not great. Just not great. They had some tackles here or there, but it seemed like every time the Eagles needed that dump off or short pass, it was right where the linebackers should have been. I think that, and once again, that's why I think the Steelers defense got out schemed. But yeah, it's a D for the linebackers. TJ Watt had a nice first half. He disappeared in the second half. It is what it is, dude.
Okay. Good. Let's go to the defensive backs, guys. The defensive backfield, we have some more Joey Porter problems as far as coverage goes. But again, I'm not going to put that against him. Those 2 wide receivers they were just unbelievable. Cream of the crop yesterday. So listen, guys, Dante Jackson, he gets hurt. Joey Porter, we got to throw the safeties into. We're also short of safety with Deshaun Elliott being out. Minka, Mike, what do you give the DBs overall? Bishop had to play during the game. I don't know. What do you give these guys?
F. I'm tired. And I'm tired of having to come up for. I'm tired of having to come up with excuses for Minka Fitzpatrick. F.
Yeah, that was the worst. The worst unit in the game was our defensive backfield. They failed.
It's like they just stopped communicating throughout this game.
Yep.
Phil still says so. Finch just said TJ Watt lost the game. I don't think that's what he said.
No, that's not what he said. That's not what he said.
I said that the linebacking crew in general, TJ was the one bright spot they truly had, and in the second half he disappeared. They pulled him out of the game, and eventually, obviously, he got hurt. But no, TJ did not lose the game, but it would have been nice to have him show up in the second half. I got to give credit there, and I got to give Brian a pat on the back for pointing that out last night.
Let's see, special teams. Special teams. I don't really even know if there's enough to go by. Yeah, Boz made his field goals. Mike, Finch, anything from the special teams? What do you grade these guys?
They had a nice punt return again, or a kick return against us. I think I'm going to give them a C-.
Finch?
Yeah, same. I'd go with a C. They were average. I mean, we didn't make plays, we didn't have any returns, but Boz was Boz. When he was called for, he was there for us, and a C at best.
All right, guys, let's go to the coaching. How do you feel the coaching was during the course of the game? Not just the head coach, but how does the defensive strategy look to you? The offense, Danny Smith, the whole crew, top to bottom. What do you give these coaches, Mike, for the game yesterday?
It was an F. It's just a poor performance all around. Like the adjustments we normally make in game and in second half, they just weren't there.
Finch, same with you.
Nothing to disagree with there, man. I've been pounding that drum all day today. We got out coached. Our defense especially got out coached.
No, John agrees with you guys. He also says F on the board. Finally, gentlemen, overall, what do you give the overall performance by the Pittsburgh Steelers, and how much of it was a poor performance opposed to just getting beat by a really good team? Sometimes at the end of the day, you could play your best football and still lose, which wasn't the case yesterday. But Mike, let me start with you on this one. Overall grade.
Overall grade was a D-. Yeah, it was just, and this was nowhere near the best of like the Steelers' effort that they put out. It was just a bad game all around from this team. So yeah, it was just an F performance.
Yeah, even in bad performances, you can usually find one bright spot, right? Like you could lose a game but still have that running back that got 100 yards, or you could lose a game and still have that defensive back that got 2 picks, 1 for a touchdown. We have none of that. Not a single bright spot in this game. This was a D- performance. The only reason I don't give it an F is because we at least got a touchdown. We at least scored some points. So yeah, it's bad. That was a bad game.
Mike, I want a game ball from the Pittsburgh Steelers, a guy that wore black and gold yesterday on the field. I want a game ball. Who would you give it to if you had to give one to a Steeler?
TJ Watt. He balled out that first half, and then where's the team to pick him up in the second half? I mean, let's be honest. Like Trent, they're starting right tackle.
Everybody's waiting for Scar to enter.
He said it that was a fight from beginning to end against Watt. He said it. Being left alone on an island was one of the worst things he's ever had to do in his career. So, yeah, if a future Hall of Famer says that was one of the worst games he's had to play against TJ Watt, I think TJ Watt gets the game ball for us.
I just don't know what you want from TJ Watt. You want him to get 30 tackles a game? You want him to cause 7 forced fumbles? I mean, this is what
there's 10 other guys out there that are allowed.
Exactly.
To
if those people would play to their level, if they would play to the level Watt played it as he's knocking out his 33rd forced fumble, things maybe would have been better. But Finch, I got to come over to you on this one. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I want a game ball. I want a game ball by a person that wore black and gold yesterday. Can you make that happen?
There's only 2 players that come to mind who played at least a halfway decent game, and one is Calvin Austin, the other is Beanie Bishop. Now, I know that we just said that the secondary was terrible, but Beanie did have a couple nice plays. Yeah, I think maybe Calvin Austin. I mean, he, as we said earlier, he seems to be embracing the Steeler way. He's a little guy. He has the underdog mentality, and he just continues to just stand up for himself. And I really like that, and he showed it last night. I really like Calvin Austin. Let's give him a game ball.
All right, that's fair, guys. Let me just kind of catch up on go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna say, speaking of Calvin Austin real quick, if we can ever get a second receiver next to George Pickens, Calvin Austin would be a huge part of the Steelers' offense.
Absolutely.
Because he's not for as a little guy is, he's not afraid to go across the middle. He can be that deep threat.
People, Mike, they keep saying to me, they say this.
Sucks.
They say this. Well, you don't really, you can get along with the number 1 with George as long as it's George Pickens. Look how it opens up the game if you would just have another player of a number 2 caliber on the other side. Yeah. It opens things up for so many people. This is a big part of what the problem is for us. Guys, let me catch up on a couple of these messages, and then we do have to move on. Right here, I'm going to start with Mark Malone, he says, if I see Najee run off guard for a 1 yard gain, I'm going to wig out. I like the term wig out.
Yeah, like you and me both, brother. You and me both.
Phil still says no, he didn't. Okay, we already touched that. Mark Malone says they've been fully tainted by Tomlin now. Mark Malone also says I'm pretty sure they were stoned. Phil Steele says F it, the offense sucked and they lost the game. Smith and offense doesn't have the balls. This offense better not show up on Saturday. This better not show up on Saturday. And then he gave us a bunch of players' names. He says they will show up. John says Austin. He believes Austin should get the game ball. And Yinzer Joe says the Eagles referees get the game ball. I think if you get the Steelers a game ball, go with a guy that basically was able to do what he does on a normal basis with Boz. He was able to kick a couple field goals. He was the bright spot. Again, a couple plays here and there. TJ Watt's first half performance, a few things here and there. But, you pick any of these guys, you'll be okay because nobody played a great game. Gentlemen, we're going to get ready to wrap up the Steeler talk as the show starts to wrap up here. The Pittsburgh Steelers have 267 wins. That is the most since 1970, since the merger in November and December. Nobody has more wins than the Pittsburgh Steelers in November and December since 1970. That's kind of an encouraging thing to kind of keep in the back of your mind. Also, what else do we got? You know what? Let me go through a couple things here in the division. Kansas City beats the Browns 21-7. We thought maybe the Browns could trip up the Chiefs. That didn't happen. The Cincinnati Bengals managed to win. They get the win over the Tennessee Titans 37-27. And, of course, no help from Baltimore. They get the win 35-14 over the Giants in division. Let me go through these scores real quick, guys. And also, the playoffs didn't really change. We are still in that same spot that we were in. We didn't lose any ground. We didn't gain any ground. The big thing right now is figure out a way to beat Baltimore. That way we could clinch the division. We could get that home game to start off the playoffs. That's the difference. The only difference is we lose this week. We're probably, depending on tiebreakers, maybe going on the road the first week. So at the end of the day, guys, it's not the worst thing in the world. But here is the way that the scores broke down for the week. Of course, the week started on Thursday of last week when the Rams beat the 49ers by a score of 12-6. Games on Sunday went like this. Commanders beat the Saints 20-19. The Texans, in a game that helped us out, they beat the Dolphins 20-12. I'm sorry. The Jets pull off a big win against the Jaguars. Look at that game, the Jets and the Jaguars, guys. While there's all these good football games going on, the Jets and the Jaguars still managed to make it on a television set. The Jets win this game 32-25 over the Jags. The Dallas Cowboys get a win over the lately surging Carolina Panthers 30-14. The Buccaneers take down the Chargers. They didn't only take them down, guys. They beat them 40-17. The Buccaneers are a team that questionable, but they're probably going to win that division. But the Chargers are a team that's going to be in the playoffs in our conference.
Chargers are another one of those teams that the media just loves. Everybody loves the Chargers right now. What are they doing?
Media loves the Harbaughs,
They do. They do.
The Broncos, they did beat the Colts, as we mentioned earlier, 31-13. The Cardinals, they win 30-17 over the Patriots. The Bills, this juggernaut, they beat the Detroit Lions 48-42. They must put up 50 points against this Lions team. And finally, the game last night, the White Bay Packers. I don't know if you guys seen these helmets. I've never seen them wear white helmets before, but Green Bay had white helmets, and they did beat the Seattle Seahawks 30-13 in a game that could very well be a playoff game somewhere over in the NFC side of the bracket. On Monday night, you got a couple games tonight, 2 games. Tim, your friend, his Chicago Bears are going up against the Minnesota Vikings up in Minnesota. That's an 8:00 game. And also the Falcons, they travel to Las Vegas to play the Raiders. That's an 8:30 game tonight. So you got 2 Monday night games. As much as we're disgusted at football at the moment in Pittsburgh, you kind of need that 24 hours to what do they do that when you get all the toxins out of you? What's that called? You extract cleanse. We need a cleanse here in Western Pennsylvania. No two ways about that, guys. There are two Monday night games tonight. Also, Mike, a couple other things here. The Penguins were back in action over the weekend. They dropped a game to the Senators. They lose 3-2 in overtime. They're back in action tomorrow as they host the LA Kings at 7:00 at the PPG Arena. The female women's volleyball team at Pitt, they advanced to the Final Four once again 4 years in a row. They beat the Kentucky volleyball ladies on Saturday, and they do go back. I like this women's team, guys. Matter of fact, I do got my blue and gold on today. The college football Heisman Trophy. A lot of people thought it was this running back out of Boise. I knew it wasn't going to be the guy out of Boise. It is, of course, Travis Hunter, the two-way star from Colorado. He is your 2024 Heisman Trophy winner. And finally,
the internet Pirates is not happy about it.
Yeah.
I seen a lot of stuff about that yesterday, and people are not happy about that Heisman pick.
Like, I don't either one. I'm okay with. I thought Genty should have got it. I thought he sat out the second half of so many games, but I get the Travis Hunter thing. He plays
a weak conference, guys. That's
well.
Why.
It is. Both of them are.
That's exactly.
Yeah, and congratulations to Hunter. You know, I'm not saying he isn't deserving of any accolades. He's a great player, and he's a two-way player, which is amazing. But you know, he didn't have the stats as the other guy there.
Yeah, I think what's his Hunter's going to be a damn good player in the NFL. Genty, depending on where he goes, I think he can put up some numbers.
Yeah, the guy's obviously a great physical talent. So good for him.
It's going to be interesting to see him play people that are his talent level and better. That's one thing I'm going to be interested in seeing. Also, guys, the Pittsburgh Pirates, they make a splash move. That's right. Your
Big
Pittsburgh
move.
Pirates, they acquire utility man Emmanuel Valdez from Boston. I thought that was the guy that traveled
real quick.
Columbia
I've
with
never
his donkey selling coffee. This Valdez, Emmanuel Valdez, guys, our new utility player. Go ahead, Finch.
I was just going to say, I can never, my whole adult life, I can't hear the name Emmanuel and just immediately not think of Cinemax in the 90s. If you know, you know.
My man. My man.
If you know, you know.
Detox enema. John says we need an enema here. These Steeler fans need an enema. But guys, let me take a look. See around. Hey, there we go. Again, I recognize that music.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know, guys. This is a short week. Get ready. Just in a couple days. And we're not the only team. The Chiefs are back at it on Saturday, and the Ravens, and so they're all part of this with us. It isn't like we, we're getting mega screwed, guys. But it is a short week. Saturday, we do play at 4:25. The Baltimore Ravens, the AFC North, will be on the line. Maybe the biggest game of the year, guys. What do you think about this Ravens game? I think we're gonna, when this show ends, we're gonna stop. We're gonna put the Eagles behind us. Tomorrow we come back with a full head of steam. Get ready for the Ravens because it is a short week. Mike, Finch, Baltimore Ravens, things change around, or is this the beginning of the domino effect, which you've seen with the Steelers when they're 11-0, which you've seen in the past when, you're doing well, but you take a demoralizing loss. Sometimes that could take it out of you. Guys, is this Baltimore game going to be everything that we hoped it was going to be, or is you kind of feel a slide coming here?
I don't feel a slide coming here, but I wouldn't be surprised if one happens just based on injuries, because you can't lose so many key starters and the backups not being at that level to where it's a smooth transition. That's what I can see happening.
If the Ravens never scare me ever. The Ravens never scare me ever. Ever. I don't care if Steelers could be 0-14 right now and Ravens could be 14-0, and I would still feel confident that we would have a shot. The Ravens don't scare me.
Phil still on the board is saying the D gave the offense the ball back many times, and he also says this week's offense better not show up on Saturday. How you feeling about that, Phil? Still, do you think that the offense is going to step it up against the Ravens defense, who's not number one in the league, but nobody in this league knows how to play the Pittsburgh Steelers more and better than the Baltimore Ravens do? Maybe put that up on there as well on the board, Phil. Guys, we do got to move on. Mike, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody about the website?
The2dumbyinjures.com. Check it out, everyone. We got the merch store over there. We got the blog. Got a lot of cool stuff over at the2dumbyinjures.com. And Ryan, should I share what you sent me? Or is that just going to be
yes, please do.
Hold on. Oh my God.
Put that up. This here, guys.
While you're searching, I'll play the derpy role and say, please be sure to hit that like button, smash it, share with your friends, post it everywhere on your YouTube channel, on your Facebook, on your Instagram. Help us out. We love you being here. You love us being here. We need more of this. Boom, boom, boom. Do it. Hit
boom, boom, boom. I think Derpy was so much more informative. I don't know, Finch. What do you think, guys? Mike is still looking this up. Boom.
I got it whenever you're ready.
All right, so right here, guys, pay attention to the screen. Boom. We are moving close to Christmas. Here is the shirt for the season. Guys, get on and order your new Derpy shirt. There it is. Just in time for holiday season. Get on, go check the merchandise store out over on the website. This is the shirt of the season. This is
Shut up and take my money.
It is a plain black shirt that says Boom and Derpy on the front. There you go. Get one for the holidays. It's good for all year round, but it is special this time of year. Also, Jen, let me get her real quick. She said, where am I at? It always moves on me when I'm about to read. Okay, here we go. Brian asking a Brooke Pryor question. Snowball effect. Tomlin, let's not get dramatic here. It's a loss. Maybe, that's good advice. Let's not get too dramatic, I guess. Right, guys? Also, Donovan Nye says, do you guys believe we legit earned that playoff spot, or did we need help? Can I answer that one?
Please.
I think we certainly deserved it. We certainly earned it. And here's why. Because we won games all season long. I told Mike it's very important to stack wins early when you can. Of course, everybody's talking about this three-game stretch of all season long. People talked about Philadelphia, Baltimore, Kansas City. But what is really important? Winning all season long when you can. Get the wins when you can. We started off good, and guess what? We were 10-3 going into this Philadelphia Eagles game, guys. Even though we lose yesterday, we go to the playoffs. We certainly deserve it. Not by what happened yesterday, but by what we have been able to do all season to this point. Again, this is a loss. This is the first time we got punched in the mouth, and everything we've done to this point certainly deserves the playoff spot. So, yes, I do believe that we have earned that. Let's see. Jen says, Ryan asking poor. Was that? Okay. Where are we at? Mark Malone says that should have a graphic of two midgets mud running. Ooh, I like this. You know what? I really like the way
I don't hate it.
With these mid in the mud and all that. I don't hate it.
He's definitely one of us. Definitely one of us, that guy.
He's a connoisseur.
Hey, with that name, though, right? How can you not love a guy named Mark Malone? John, he also says Derpy is so upset from yesterday's game that he is still chasing garbage trucks, and his Aunt Peaches is making his favorite sandwiches to get him home. And finally, one man's opinion on sports, he says, are the malt liquor no, they're not. As a matter of fact, I wish Mike would take that and throw it right out the window with these malt liquor shirts.
They're flying off the shelves, boys and girls.
Have we sold one? And finally, Donovan says another question. Do you think we can still get the number 2 seed? I think that we do not at this time. I say let's try to win the division at this point. Get the home win. Get the home game in the first round. At this point, it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible. And do you really think that we deserve the number 2? No. You'd like to have it, but there's no bye that comes with it anymore. So, you know what? It's the same thing. Let's get a home win in an easier team in the first round. I think that's where it's going to land. Guys, let's get into the trivia question for the day. Of course, this is a Ravens week, a short Ravens week. So we're going to stick with a Baltimore Ravens question. As nauseous as it makes us, but that's the way we're going to do things. Here we go. Derpy. No. Why do I keep calling you Derpy, Finch? Why? Why do I keep calling you Derpy?
I'm Derpy in spirit today.
You are Derpy in spirit.
Boom.
Boom. So put on your thinking caps, Mike and Finch. Everybody on the board, everybody home. Here we go. The record for rushing yards in a game by the Ravens on their team is 295 by Jamal Lewis. But who did he surpass that had 227 rushing yards in a game in 1998 that initially had the record? The initial record was this person for 227 yards in 1998. Jamal Lewis passed him and got 295, which is now the record. I need the initial running back. The initial Baltimore Raven who had 227 yards before it got broke by Jamal Lewis.
Wait, you said the initial Baltimore Raven. So you're saying who was the Raven that had the record, or that was Correct. The NFL record? Okay, so he beat a Raven. Okay, sorry, I must have misunderstood.
Yeah, it's all within the Ravens. Jamal Lewis got the record. He has 295 yards in a game. He accomplished that in 2003. Who did he pass who previously had the record as a Raven it was 227. Take a minute to think that over. We're live right here 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every day, right here on YouTube. All right, guys. So the question of the day is this. I'm looking for a Baltimore Ravens running back who had his record broken by Jamal Lewis when Jamal Lewis ran for 295 yards in one game back in 2003. I'm looking for the Raven that had 227 who got his record broken. I'm going to start with Finch on this one. Finch.
Ooh.
Who was the initial running back?
1998. Wow, I am really clueless. My first guess would have been Jamal. Like, he did it, maybe he beat his own record, but he wasn't playing back then. So, and I can't even think who the damn running back was in their first couple years as the Ravens. It's been so long. I don't know. I can't even think of a name.
All right, Mike, I'm going to come to you. Same question. I'm looking for the initial record holder at 227 yards before Jamal Lewis went crazy and got 295 yards in 2003.
The only other running back coming to mind, and it's going to piss me off once you say the answer because I'm going to be like, yes, obviously him. The only one I can think of is Ray Rice. I know he was after, but F it, I'm going Ray Rice with the time machine.
All right, guys. Question of the day. Jamal Lewis got the all-time rushing single-game record back in 2003 with 295 yards in a game. But who did he take the record away from? Who had 227 yards before the record was broken? Finch couldn't figure it out. Mike said Ray Rice. Guys, Brian on the board. Brian at One Man's Opinion, he nailed it. Priest Holmes.
Priest Holmes.
Yep. Like as soon as I heard, I knew.
Priest Holmes was the guy.
Good job using Google, Brian.
Also, on the board, Ray Rice was a choice. Also, Anquan Bolden, he was up there as well. So there you go, guys. Priest Holmes was the answer to that. He did have 227 yards, and then it got passed by Jamal Lewis, who put up an amazing 295 yards rushing in one game. Unbelievable. But that is the answer today, guys. Priest Holmes. Mike, anything before we start getting ready to wrap things up for today? And wrap this Eagles game up for the season.
It's Ravens week now. You burn this game film and you move the F on. Let's go.
Finch, what about you, man? Anything before we wrap it up and put this Eagles game behind us for the rest of ever?
You can't have light without the dark. This was the dark. Now it's time to shine.
All right. Ricky Williams, Mark put on that list. Did he play for the Ravens, didn't he? For a short period of time. Was Ricky Williams over in Baltimore? So. I forgot all about that.
I always think of him as Saints and Dolphins. I don't remember him playing for
right.
Him in his Saints uniform and
standing on the sidelines going like this all game.
Yeah, right.
Getting himself
Mike
into some
Ditka
trouble.
And the whole absolutely.
Oh yeah. He traded the whole damn draft for that guy.
Let's see. Also, let me say that
Brian defending himself on the board.
Feel the skill, guys. He said all of his answers this week, since they are Ravens questions, are going to be IDGAF. I like it.
I like it. I like it. I love that energy.
Yeah,
absolutely. One other thing, guys, before we do wrap things up, does anybody actually want to see this Buffalo Bills team in the playoffs? I know that you were kind of talking, Finch, about, but I mean, in all this team puts up 40 points every game. I mean, if you look at their schedule, they put up 40. Who's going to stop this team?
They're great, but they don't instill the fear in me the way that the Eagles and the Lions do. They just don't. For some reason, I just feel like the Steelers match up well with the Bills and Kansas City. I think we don't, and as proven yesterday, we don't match up with the Eagles. I don't think we match up with Detroit either. I don't know why I feel that way. I call it a gut thing. I don't know.
All right. No, fair enough. Guys, anything else? As I said, we're getting ready to wrap things up for today. Any special notes, anything that I'm forgetting, anything like that before we get ready to roll?
No, I think we got it all.
All right, guys, tonight the Monday night doubleheader. Not even a doubleheader. They put it on at the same time. I don't understand why they do this, but it is the Bears at the Vikings. That game starts at 8 o'clock, and the Falcons at the Raiders. That game starts at 8:30. We are well on our way of putting this Philadelphia game behind us, getting ready for the Baltimore Ravens. Again, it is a short week on Ravens week. This is for all the marbles. AFC North is on the line this week. If we win this game, we win the division. If we lose this game, it's going to fall down to tiebreakers, and depending on what happens in the following two games with the games played by us and Baltimore. So this game is pretty big, guys. We will be talking about figuring out what we got to do to win this game and preparing for the Ravens as the week goes on. But for today, I do want to say thank you to everybody for coming and hanging out and checking us out today. We appreciate each and every one of you. We really do. We couldn't do it without you. I do want to say thank you to everybody on the board. You guys always keep things interesting, and everybody at home as well. And I do want to say I hope quality was better today. I did a lot of work over the weekend trying to fix things because Friday I was ready to have an aneurysm. But and I do again want to. And I do want to. Oh, you ain't. As I'm
you ain't Mike, kidding.
I know.
I said to Mike, I said, you know what? If something is so bad, and you're like, this is going to be so bad, and it ends out not being as bad as you thought it was going to be, it was 100 times worse than I thought it was.
Bad.
So I apologize.
It was like one of our most well watched and well.
I know. And the more I told Mike, I told Mike. I said, Mike, put a warning in the comments so it kind of deters people from watching. It ended up being watched more after Mike put the comment up. Yeah. So I do apologize, guys. I hope everything was better today and moving forward. I do believe we have the problem figured out and a solution also for that, guys. Again, Monday Night Football, no Penguins tonight. They're back in action tomorrow. Not a whole lot going on except for NFL football tonight. So we'll be back tomorrow to talk about that. A lot more, getting ready for the Baltimore Ravens. Derpy will be in the house tomorrow as we have to go over the picks from the weekend. I haven't looked at them yet, so I don't know who won. Boom! So that's all going to be going on tomorrow right here on the Two Dumb Yinzers. So we hope that you join us then. For Finch in the house, for Mike in the Steelers Central Mobile Studio, myself, the Two Dumb Yinzers. We want to thank everybody one more time. And we'll be back here tomorrow at the same time to do it all over again. For here at the Two Dumb Yinzers, everyone have a great Monday. We'll see you tomorrow.